Well, hey guys. No, it's great
Live.
to have y'all here. It's the lonely I and our bestest friend, Richard Robinette.
What's up?
Ringing true from an airport.
I'm in the Minute Suite at the DFW airport, which is one of my, I get it as a credit card perk. I get to use these tiny little rooms to chill out in while I'm waiting for my flights.
Love it. And we'll just wait a few minutes and chat it up. I'm going to tell some stupid jokes because I enjoy that.
I love stupid jokes.
Oh, man, I got some of the best. But you were in Dallas for a presentation. How did that go?
It went really well. It was the Total Wealth Academy, which is a real estate education group that operates in Houston and Dallas. And I gave a presentation on securities rules and all the differences between Reg D, 506B, 506C, Reg A, Reg S, Reg CF, and all the rules and hoops you got to jump through to comply with all of them. And despite the dreary subject matter, a good time was had by all. So I think it went really well.
So literally some of the most boring content there actually ever could be, but thankfully your song and dance and dancing bear makes it all the more fun.
Bad jokes and memes and all the silly stuff I put in my presentations to try to keep people from falling asleep. So
love it. Well, since you are in an airport, I've got some bad jokes for airports.
Let's go.
You know, I tried to sue the airport for losing my luggage. I lost the case.
Nah.
Why is, you'll appreciate this one, why is Metallica the safest band to listen to in the airport? They have not set off a metal detector since 1989.
Oh.
Bam.
Man, that's cold.
All right, so next time you're in the airport and you're picking up your dad, don't yell, "Hi, Jack." It can go wrong.
That can go wrong.
All right, and my friend, and hopefully this isn't you, you're arrested for stealing luggage at the airport. Your trial, thankfully, didn't last more than an hour. It was a briefcase. Yep.
It's very good.
This is as
it's
entertaining
funny.
as it goes.
You go to the airport and they scan everything and they're checking your ID and they're doing the nudie scanner and making you take off your shoes and all this stuff. And then when you land, they're like, "Oh, we just trust you to pick up your bag and not someone else's. No problem." We don't need to check.
And if you get it wrong, you can't sue them because you lost your case.
Right.
And if you do get arrested, it may be a briefcase. So we've got a couple of questions, in terms of a format, have just kind of some educational materials for you, really some high level. We're going to try to keep it as entertaining as humanly possible. Try to stay away from the legalese because, my God, that's boring.
Yeah, more dad jokes.
We will try to throw in as many wonderful dad jokes as humanly possible and answer all of your questions. So please add any questions you have to the chat. We're going to go through as many as humanly possible over this next hour. But we do have a couple of questions to start. So Richard, I'm going to ask them of you.
Let's go. I can't believe we have questions already. We haven't even started the presentation. People are just like, "I need to know about this."
It's really important stuff. All right. Now, I was trying to switch that around. Nope, that doesn't work. Whatever. BK asks if you do not have a lot of money for the legal side for either Reg CF or a 506C, is there any way to get the legal side of the offering so it does not come out of pocket? AKA, can I figure out how to not pay for legal services? Thanks, BK.
I mean, it's kind of, I think, the same as any other investment you would make, right? There are ways to do investments with OPM, other people's money. So, a very easy way, one that our firm uses, is our payment processor does a pay later program, and they will literally loan you all the money for your legal fees. So you pay nothing out of pocket, and then you make small monthly payments for however long till it's done. So if you've got a month or two lag before you have to make any payment, then you can get your offering out and start funding it that way. And as long as you can raise the money, then that works out. Nate, I think you've taught some people how to do convertible notes to fund the front end of offerings. You want to talk about that?
Sure. So, one of the strategies, because this comes up all the time, I don't want to pay to get started. I can raise capital. I actually love to use this strategy to really even decide, should you be raising capital? So one thing that I've done in the past, and Taha, if you don't mind, just drop in chat a link to the education on convertible notes. It's really a convertible note is a way to borrow money from somebody to pay for the organizational, the legal services, the getting things set up and getting things running forward. And once you have your deal on the table, you're starting to be able to raise the capital. Fantastic. Either you use the capital to pay back the lender or allow the lender to convert into being a permanent investor, generally at a little discount, just to be helpful. A little incentive for somebody to provide it. The one big comment that I have, you always want to bring in a single person, so it's not another securities issue. You also, if you can't raise money from a single person, seriously, don't do a capital raise.
Right.
That's kind of the starting base place. So BK, you got some strategies and definitely a good way to make it happen. Another question from BK for you, Mr. Robinette. If you are friends with an accredited investor or company, and they are willing to help pay for your legal fees on the offering, that is possible as long as you disclose it. I feel like we just answered that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect.
And there's lots of ways to do it. It could be a convertible note. You could bring them in as a sponsor that's paying some out-of-pocket costs that get reimbursed once you've met your minimum raise in your offering. You could get an unsecured loan from them, personal loan. There's a million ways to skin that cat. So don't let a lack of upfront capital stop you from doing a capital raise. If you are confident you can go to investors and raise enough money to fund your deal and begin operations, don't let that upfront fee get in the way. You can figure out a way to do it.
And to go back to those, the payment plan option, something really important to think about. Again, deals get on the table 2 weeks to a month, really kind of based on how ready you are. And then, of course, you raise the capital. You either reimburse yourself or you just go ahead and pay off the debt. So it wipes it all away. So BK, you got plenty of strategies and opportunities to not have a big cost on your plate. All right, got a question from SoCal Buff, which thanks for joining us again. I love it when you show up. Richard, your He-Man impression is awesome.
I'm so buff. Totally buff.
How quickly is the SEC responding to Reg A Tier 2 filings right now? Maybe you could start with a real brief explanation of what Reg A Tier 2 actually means.
Sure. Reg A Tier 2 is the most common tier of Reg A to use. So there's Tier 1, Tier 2. Tier 1's garbage. I've never found any reason to use Tier 1. Tier 2 is what basically everyone talks about when they talk about Reg A. That lets you raise the $75 million from as many investors as you want, accredited or unaccredited. We go through the process with the SEC of getting your deal qualified, which qualified, by the way, does not mean approved. So the SEC is saying, we've looked at your deal and we're not going to stop you right now. We might sue you later, but right now, we're not going to get in your way. Go raise money and maybe we'll see you another day. So that whole process and the ability to raise the $75 million and the rules that go with that, that is Reg A Tier 2. in my opinion, the only tier of Reg 8 worth even talking about. As far as how quickly the SEC is responding, I honestly don't know, because I have minions that do the Reg 8 offerings for me. So I haven't talked to the SEC in 18 months at least. So we might have to pull
and
in.
These minions are amazing. And I gotta say, this guy right here, there, even more amazing. So exactly. But I can actually answer that. They are legally obligated to respond in 27 days. Then it always takes a couple of days to get. That's what they are truly. They're pretty good about that. They often are getting back to us earlier, sometimes 10 to 15 days. The biggest goal is always a no review letter, meaning they just let it go through to qualification, or a no comments letter, which at the end of the day is really our goal. And we hope to never have any more than one comment letter come back, but sometimes it's tough to know, especially if you have complicated offerings. All right, we got a question from Tyler Piers. What are the best ways to get hard commitments while you are going through legal?
I probably wouldn't get hard commitments while going through legal. I would take soft commits, do some testing the waters, but until people have been given all the disclosures they need and all the representations and everything that go along with your offering, I wouldn't get a single hard commit.
I love it, and I'm just gonna throw up here right now.
Don't throw up. That's great.
So, testing the waters. This is something for anybody that's really interested in. There are certain disclosures that have to be made in anything that's written. And here's the disclosure for you. Basically, at the end of the day, it is just saying, I'm not asking for money. I'm not soliciting money. I'm just testing the waters. Now, I'm bringing this up because, you know what, as a courtesy, anybody that needs this, just let us know. We will send it over to you. At the end of the day, just trying to be as helpful as humanly possible.
Did you have that teed up, like just ready to go?
You know what? I know how to move fast.
Did you seed these questions? Are these plants?
You know what? If they are plants, we got to make sure they've got lots of sun, and we're here to provide the sun. So, but if you are interested in getting the test the waters, there's also a couple other things. Here's a QR code. Taha, throw in the chat the link to get the information. This is both for testing the waters. I'm throwing in the most exciting thing ever, a book that I put together, as well as, honestly, this is kind of the most important part. We have some helpful charts that just tell you a little bit more about the regulations. If you're doing a syndication, what it looks like, or a fund, doesn't really matter. And just some really important and helpful information for you. So just kind of throwing it out there. Go ahead and follow the link, do this QR code, shoot me an email, drop it in chat, nate@investmentlawyers.com, or send us a carrier pigeon. Really doesn't matter. But we're here to make good things happen. So open books to share it all.
Johan says, if I have a fund using derivatives, can you apply for an exemption for me?
Of course. There's a strategy and an option for everything. Even investing in orange vineyards. I guess that wouldn't be a vineyard in Florida, but
Orange Grove.
Derivatives are definitely investment contracts. So there are some important additional things to pay attention to and just to know. With any investment into other securities, this includes fund to funds, if you're investing into other funds, trading into derivatives, hedge funds, investing in the stock market. These are investment company issues. And there's a few exemptions to the Investment Company Act, Just to throw it out there. Number one is doing a small fund, 100 investors or less. Number two, sticking to real estate. And the third kind of biggest thing is only taking majority stakes in companies, because now you have control. It's not like a passive securities offering. So there's a ton of additional ways to avoid the Investment Company Act. But if you're looking to start a hedge fund, trade derivatives, or otherwise get into the middle of that fun and exciting trading world, make sure you're paying attention to that. Another thing to pay attention to is the investment advisor restrictions. Every state in the SEC has different rules and requirements, and it's important to either make sure you're abiding by them or legally avoid or don't have to have the Investment Advisor Acts applicable. Another important thing to say. But to get back to Johan's question, of course, there's options. The options are not Regulation A that Richard just talked about. The options are not Regulation Crowdfunding that I'll talk about some more. But Regulation D is absolutely a strategy that you can use. So no problem with us helping put together that fund to trade all day. I don't know if you have any more to add to that. I kind of threw out a lot.
No, I got a couple more questions in the queue. Jeff Williams says, besides real estate, are there other domains that you like to work in? I think you just mentioned a few. But
you know
what's your favorite besides real estate? Like, what's your favorite kind of offering to or business to do offerings for?
For whatever reason, I am offering agnostic. Doesn't really matter to me what the exemption is. We always get it figured out. Doesn't matter what kind of acquisition you're going to do, whether it's an investment fund or a syndication. I call a syndication, you're buying a particular asset, doesn't really matter. But whether or not you're starting a business, acquiring real estate, building real estate, IPOs, it's time to go big or go home, doing some roll-ups, putting together multiple companies to increase the amount of capital that you've got going. And you know what? Let's take it public. Let's make you a $100 million zillionaire. All of this, honestly, is possible. And Richard, like I was mentioning, well, we have a couple of clients that they're looking to IPO. They're all teed up. So after this, we got to chat.
We have the call on the calendar. I like the fun ones. Like anyone that has a fun or interesting business, I love doing those offerings. We have one client that is doing they have a firearm training device. It looks like a gun. It feels like a gun. When you fire it, it kicks like a gun, but it's actually a laser. And you set up a sensor so you can practice target shooting without the danger of actually using ammunition. And I went to the Mob Museum in Las Vegas recently, and they have an exhibit you can go through where they actually have, like, you know, bad guys on the screen, and you play cop and you shoot them, and they use these guns, and it was really, really neat. And so I'm excited about you know, doing offering businesses like that, businesses that are just interesting. I think it's a lot of fun. So
love it. You know what? We also have a mushroom business that I think is just entertaining, pushing the boundaries of psychiatric support. So always a good time.
Good medicine.
Are larger crowdfunding conferences worthwhile? I hate wasting money.
I hate wasting money too. And I've been to a few conferences that were absolute duds. But most of the ones I've been to, whether it's crowdfunding or real estate or whatever, I've made at least one or two really good connections. And so I feel like I'm batting 1,000 on, you know, the money I've invested in attending conferences versus what I get out of it. So, but a lot of these conferences really are what you make of it. You know, I'm kind of an introvert, and I like to be the wallflower, you know, and I kind of have to get out of my shell a little bit when I go to these conferences and shake hands and meet people and hear their stories. And, kind of just make friends and then see what might, come of that afterwards. So I think, it's not so much the conference itself, even the bad conferences, I think I've managed to turn into a net positive. Sometimes the vibe's better and sometimes it's easier or whatever, but really is what you make of it and what kind of effort you put into really putting yourself out there and, taking the risk, introducing yourself and whatever, which, I mean, for people like me, that's kind of scary. I'm not the super outgoing type, in large crowds, but if I can force myself to do it, I usually have a really good experience. So that's my take on.
And I would say, I think there's really 3 types of conferences. Number one is you're looking for investors, and it's more an investor friendly, like the Money Show. If you want to look it up, they have multiple The Money Show around the country. And really, that's if you're an issuer, you can put up your booth, you can talk to investors. That's a great place to look for investors. A lot of them are more educational based. Hey, let me teach you the strategy to XYZ. We've got a great couple of conferences coming up. And all this is on our website if you have any interest. But like Brad Sumrock has his Rat Race to Retirement coming up really soon, teaching you, hey, you want to do multifamily and real estate deals? Here's how to. There's also Tim Mai's got this Fund of Funds where you can learn how to raise capital through your investor relationships and relationships of relationships and how to do fund of funds. But my absolute favorite is in June. There is a regulation crowdfunding and a regulation A conference in New York. And, again, just check out our website, crowdfundinglawyers.net. There's an events tab. All of these are listed in there. This one is kind of that third option. Let's introduce all the different types of vendors and service providers that you actually need to be successful. The marketing agencies, the accountants, the lawyers, everybody that you need to really put together your deal in a way that will be successful. I actually think it's one of the best conferences out there and available anywhere. So check it out. I'd encourage you, but all 3 of those, 4 of those, worth the money. But if you're trying to do a successful raise, definitely the Reg CF Reg A conference, June 20th, New York. All right, man, we just keep getting questions.
This might just be a Q&A session. I don't know. I might just forget the presentation.
Well, it always works out. Johan, I meant a fund instead of fun in my question. Richard, do you like having fun or funds?
I didn't know what's the best fun conference. I kind of liked that question, really. But what's the best fund conference for crypto? Is that degens? What's degenerates? What's the what's? I need my Urban Dictionary. I don't know what that word is. I've never been to a crypto conference, actually. I should probably put one on the list to try to attend this year. But we've done some crypto funds, and we've done some other offerings that involve kind of crypto adjacent things like blockchain types of deals or NFT types of deals. But I've never been to a conference about one. So have you?
I haven't. I think there's a big difference between utility tokens that you can actually do something with cryptocurrency that really there's no basis of the value other than people give it value by trading. And there's also the blockchain or tokenization of securities offerings, kind of acting as a transfer agent, making sure they know who all owns this. I think it's kind of a ridiculous strategy. I mean, I understand it's talking about some, hot industry areas. But at the end of the day, it is truly a transfer agent system where you just know who owns what. As long as they're free trading shares, you can sell it. And then by transferring the token, the issuer automatically knows who you transferred it to and who owns it. So there are some benefits to it. If you're doing like a smaller fund, you got 100, 200 investors. It's a long-term plan. They're sticking with you. I don't know if there's a lot of value in that.
Let's see.
All right, crypto conferences are a blast. Many off the wall people. You know what? We've got to get one on the list.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I'm in. Zuri's asking if these conferences I'm talking about are large conferences. Some of them are huge. Some of them are medium. Some of them are small. Oftentimes, you just got to roll those dice. Money Show is huge.
Money Show's huge. Reggae conference is actually pretty small. They got a tent that everything happens in.
Yeah,
I like that one though.
Probably
it's really
a couple
nice
hundred people.
Club, and it's a little more. It's an interesting conference because it's a little more buttoned down than I'm used to. And I don't own a suit, so when I show up, I show up in jeans and stick out like a sore thumb at the reggae conference. But I'm not gonna buy.
I think that's fun.
One conference, yeah.
Like we roll in like we're actually regular people that can communicate, but at the same time, we're actually kind of the big fish in the little pond, and that's we get to roll in however we want. It doesn't matter.
The food's really good at that one too.
Super important. Well, sounds good. I do want to make sure that we cover some of this, really the process of crowdfunding, the strategies of crowdfunding,
if we have
and going to stay really light on the rules, but still keep throwing in your questions after this. That I'm only going to try to take about 15 minutes to cover some stuff. We'll get back to some questions. So let's just jump into it.
Let's do it.
And let's start with, hey, we're attorneys. Take this for what it is, just information. Don't rely on it for anything. So this is how to raise money through crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, what I mean is you're going out to the crowd. You're asking for money. You're trying to start your business. What I'm not talking about is some Kickstarter trying to pre-sell a product. You can include that, but are you asking for money? Or are you asking them to pre-purchase your amazing dice doohickey thing?
Your dice
which you just got off. Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's like this little credit card thing, and you push a button and it spins these wheels instead of having to roll dice. Yeah, I got it. I don't really know why.
That for your D&D club?
Absolutely. One of the most important things about doing crowdfunding, and you should start this today, is getting out there and starting to build connections with prospective investors, whether you have a deal on the table or not. You have to be ready to ask somebody for the money. And if you haven't started to communicate what you're doing, what your business is, what's your goals, then you don't have anybody to ask for the money. A couple of suggestions that I always give is start doing a newsletter. Create your newsletter list. Let people know the current happenings in your life, in the business industry, in the business that you've started. Fun information around the industry, but just start putting out that information. Newsletters are great. I'd encourage y'all to join ours. We send out one every week just with information about the industry and this type of fun stuff. Also, social media. Just letting people on social media know what is going on and what you're focused on, some of the most important stuff to do, because when you need that money, you already have people to follow up with. But once you're ready to start moving forward, you got to figure out what the assets are going to be that you're going to acquire. Doesn't matter if it's a syndication, doesn't matter if it's a fund, doesn't really matter at all. Just to mention, there's investment fund structures, there's syndication structures, this being to buy a particular business, asset, real estate, or a fund where you're more describing, these are what I'm going to do in general. That's the type of stuff that, it's just process and identifying the assets or type of assets that you're looking to acquire.
Mm-hmm. And pro
once
tip,
you got that figured out,
I can insert it for a second.
Please do.
Please narrow your criteria for what assets people are investing in. Don't go out there and be like, well, I'm going to do multifamily, but I also might do Airbnbs, but I also might make loans, but I also might acquire land. If you spread that thin, your investors don't know what they're investing in, and maybe they believe in one asset class but not another. And if you're like, well, wishy-washy on which I'm going to buy, you're going to have a really hard time raising money. Narrow it down as much as you possibly can. I'm going to buy B-class garden style multifamily apartments in one of these 3 Sunbelt states. And that's going to be a lot easier sell, because it's more, even if you're doing a fund and you don't have a specific property identified, or businesses, a specific asset identified, if you can narrow that down so that it becomes real to your investors and not some just like vague notion of, trust me, I'm going to do something cool with your money, that's going to make a much more compelling offer when you actually go trying to raise capital. So that's my 2 cents on that one.
Super appreciate those comments. I'd also say, if this is the first, second, or third time that you've gone through it, don't try to do a fund. With the fund, it's really that know, like, and trust you. And if you haven't been working with investors, it's kind of difficult to get them into it. Legally, you can. Business-wise, maybe start with the syndication or 2 first. After you figured out what you're going to do, it's about developing your investment. In terms of like our process, we generally spend a couple hours with people planning everything out, and then figuring out, once you know where your investor is going to come from, it's what kind of regulations or plans you need. And that's where we start talking about the boring regulations, your friends and family round that you don't get to advertise around everywhere. You have your beginning crowdfunding, where you can advertise everywhere, but only accept accredited investors. We've got this regulation crowdfunding, one of the most important things, because now you can accept everybody. You're capped at $5 million now, but you get it on the platform. You can solicit money all over the place. It really makes sense. There are some investor limits. I'm not even going to go through this. You can watch this slowly. Pause it.
Watch it. Pause.
Here's where we get really interesting, because you can actually do different types of investments simultaneously or back to back. So as an example, if you're going through a regulation D raise, that friends and family, that you can accept unlimited numbers of accredited investors and up to 35 non-accredited investors, the non-millionaires that have some level of sophistication. You're not allowed to advertise that, but you can, and we see it all the time, afterwards do one of these Reg D 506Cs. So now you can advertise absolutely everywhere. And so it's a way to get the benefits of your friends and family, that you can bring in grandma, but still be able to reach out to the world. That's one strategy that we do all the time. A second one that I absolutely love is putting together the 506Cs with regulation CF, this regulation crowdfunding. Changes the entire dynamic of, now you can raise an unlimited amount of capital from accredited investors, but you can still raise up to $5 million from non-accredited investors. It's all of a sudden, you're getting all the benefits of being able to crowdfund and find investors everywhere, instead of just a limited number of non-accredited. Technically it's 35. Now you can raise up to $5 million from them, but still with real estate deals, maybe you got to raise 10, 15 million. The rest just comes from accredited investors. So we call this our side-by-side strategy. I absolutely love it, because now you got crowdfunding at its finest to be able to reach out everywhere without having to go through that time and expense of a Regulation A offering. In terms of getting these things on the table, Reg CF or Reg D, cheapest, fastest way to get going. 3-4 weeks, you're starting to bring money in. With Regulation A, yeah, you can raise up to $75 million, but because it goes through a qualification process with the SEC, we're generally saying at a bare minimum, expect 3 months to get through it. On average, it's more like 6 months. It is just more time and process required. So just wanted to throw those out, but all of them allow you to advertise, general solicit, get out there in the world and just say, what you got, guys? And it just comes down to who or how much you can get the investments from. If you're doing a Reg CF, you have to use a FINRA registered crowdfunding portal. It's just a requirement. We're happy to make recommendations and introductions to multiple. If you're doing any sort of Reg D or Regulation A offerings, they don't have to be FINRA registered. You don't even need to use one. But honestly, we find that 80% plus of the deals that we do, and we do a lot of deals every year, use these investor portals because it just makes life easier.
Yeah, and this kind of changed overnight. For years, people were doing offerings and just emailing their list and emailing out documents and getting back scans, grainy scans of people's signatures or photographs of signatures or whatever on the subscription documents. And it feels like within a week, probably back in 2020, 2019, 2020, everybody switched to a portal, and now you log into the portal. It's DocuSign. You click, click, click. You put in your credit card or put in your ACH information. Poof, you can invest. It's really, really changed the game on the logistics of collecting both investment agreements from investors and also collecting their investments and reporting to investors. So, these portals not only set up to sell your securities, but also you do your quarterly report, and you give the financials out, you give your K1s out or whatever. You can do it all on these portals. It's a really, really good tool for your capital raising.
Love it. Documentation, I'm not going to even go through it. But most importantly, if you want more information, you want to have a no cost, no commitment consultation, here's my contact info, whatever, the QR code, just so that easily you can download it. But definitely want to provide that context. And that's about the max on the education that actually wanted to provide, because we're here to have way more fun and games than anything. So, Richard, do you have anything that you want to teach? I guess I went through my little song and dance, but you got anything?
No, I gave you my interruptions. So
love it.
Got a couple more questions on the chat, so if you want to hit those. We got SoCal Buff back. Thank you for participating and being so active on the chat. What have you been hearing about the secondaries market? ATS is pretty quiet and hoping things start picking up.
I will say that secondary trading, it's a wonderful concept. It is way more difficult to get interested buyers. Kind of comes down to what kind of deals you're doing. If they are Regulation D offerings, it's almost impossible to get an ATS, a secondary trading system, to list or to even sell more so your investments. Reason for the difficulties, well, there's not regular reporting, there's not regular information, you don't have any SEC oversight. So people just don't trust what they have. Because of that, Reg D's almost impossible to do. Regulation A, there actually is more secondary trading and opportunities underneath the Reg A, because there are filings that you can get in trouble if you don't do them or don't do them right every 6 months. There's more information. There's more knowledge out there. There's more expectation that you're not going to lie about your deal. So Reg A, they work. Regulation CF, regulation crowdfunding. There's more information that's reported on an ongoing basis. There's an annual report. There's annual financial statements certified by an officer that are filed with the SEC. However, there's less of that trading as well. So I don't know if these secondary trading platforms are really ever going to take off the way that we all hoped and expected they would. But there is some light at the end of the tunnel for Regulation A.
So Johan said fund and games. I'm gonna totally trademark that.
I got our next shirt.
Right on.
Let's see, I've got one of them. Just because I like to show them off. I'm like so proud of these. Like, here's one of our latest for the crowdfunding rock stars, because Mr. Robinette is an absolute rock star. But just wanted to, share that. We give these things every once in a while to everyone we work with. Can you use multiple portals?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a great idea. You got to make sure you're not giving out competing information. If you're bringing in investors, you got to make sure that, you're, both portals are using reasonable steps to verify accreditation status and things of that nature. If you're working with a transfer agent, they might not like the idea of you having your offering on multiple portals. So I just can't imagine that's going to work real well.
I will also say with Reg CF, it's basically impossible because there's some cost on capital. And if you're out there advertising, the portals are generally fighting over, well, where's it actually going to go? You'll never get those approvals. You can use two portals, one for the Reg D, Reg A, a separate one for the Reg CF. Again, talking about that side-by-side type strategies. It works, but again, why not save some costs, some time, and keep everything together?
So on the side-by-side, technically you would have to, because one, the FINRA registered portal is going to do your CF, and then your Reg D is going to have to be somewhere else. So generally you'll have a website kind of in between that redirects investors. So are you accredited? If yes, you go to the Reg D. If no, you go to the CF. And those will technically, they'll look the same. They might have like the same subdomain or same master domain. They'll technically be different portals.
Makes sense. Is there a minimum for Reg A or Reg D raises?
No, but it is, and I actually talked about this when I gave my talk last night to the Total Wealth Academy, is you always want to, as an investor, you always want to see a minimum offering amount. And the reason for that is, so we set a minimum or a level. We have to raise this much money before we can break impounds. And break impounds is just a fancy way of saying use investor money. So if that minimum is really low and they raise that minimum, they hit it really easily, they can start using the money to pay their expenses, to pay their attorneys, pay their accountants, all their startup costs and whatever. And then there's no money for the deal. No, there's no money for the business, right? So we want to make sure, on the investor side, that their minimum is enough not only to cover their expenses, but to also invest in the asset they're going to purchase or the company they're going to purchase or whatever, and actually execute their business plan. So we don't want an underfunded company where the issuers can just start using everybody's money and then they spend a whole bunch of it and then there's nothing to show for it and nothing to give back to the investors. So on the investor side, I want to see a good, healthy minimum that I'm sure if I look at the business plan, okay, what they're going to raise before they can touch my money is enough to actually do all the great things they want to do. And on the issuer side, that's a selling point. You don't want your investors in a position where, well, I might just raise enough to pay my attorney back and then be done. Right? That would be horrible. That's a really hard sell to any investor who has any kind of sophistication about what they're doing. So there's no legal minimum, but you should have a minimum, and it should be up there to get your business plan actually executed. In my humble opinion.
All right, here's a great one. Thanks, SoCal Buff. While waiting for SEC on a Reg A, can you set up a portal and start testing the waters, collecting interest ahead of time.
Absolutely.
For testing the waters, again, you got to have all this disclaimer language. For one last time, check out the landing page that we got, and we will send you all that disclaimer language, as well as some helpful information in general. And then annoyingly throw that up. But go on and continue on, Mr. Robinette.
Yeah, so under Reg A, there are some rules about testing the waters. You're testing the waters in communications are going to be disclosed to the SEC. So you better, keep track of them. If you do social media, make sure that you're saving a copy of all your social media posts. Once you have your offering circular up, you're going to have links in any of your communications to direct investors to and whatnot. So talk to your attorney, make sure you're following the rules on testing the waters, but absolutely, while you're waiting for the SEC to get around to qualifying you, you can make investor communications and test the waters. So there.
Love it. All right. Any other questions?
Put them in now.
Put them in now, or ever hold your peace, or be at peace, or whatever that is. I don't mind ending a few minutes early because I am getting the flu. I've got my lozenges. I don't know how I'm going to make it through the rest of the day of nonstop fun and games and phone calls.
You've hit it very well.
But I'm going to go ahead and shut up.
Very good. I hope it's not the Rona.
Me too. So, you got any final words, Mr. Robinette?
Go in peace to raise lots of money or something. I don't know. I got nothing.
All right. Well, we can awkwardly stare at each other, which could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. We got like 13 minutes. So if you want to.
Are you going to come to Dallas this weekend?
Yes, I am. Booked my flight already. So I'm leaving Dallas today, and I'll be right back Saturday to do the panel at the R2R event. So,
well, this wonderful guy is coming into town to check out this event so I can do one of the most important things in the world. It's see my little daughter be Captain Hook at her school Peter Pan play.
Yeah.
Pretty important stuff.
Mr. Smee.
Well, I love it. All right. One last horrible dad joke to let you take off. Vladimir Putin shows up at the Polish airport, gets in line at customs. Custom officer asks, occupation? Putin says, nope, just visiting.
Political joke. That's good. Thank you guys so much for attending. Thank you for blowing up the chat and giving us stuff to talk about so we didn't have to stare awkwardly at each other for so long or tell too many dad jokes. Appreciate you all, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.
Bye.